right, welcome back. We're here with Aaron Segrist from the Grocers Association. And we're here on age 66, so you've met us all, right?
Yes, nice to see you all again. So for the record, I'm Aaron Segrist, president of the Vermont Retail and Grocers Association. Just as a reminder, VRGA represents over 750 members across the state. That represents about 2,000 retail outlets around Vermont. Our members include general retail, grocery stores, convenience stores, distributors, food producers, and others, business service members. I have been here talking about this issue with many of you for the past several years, so I will try to keep it brief and answer any questions. So thank you again for having me in today. VRGA, we're made up of small businesses that serve as stewards in every community across the state. We support local organizations. We hire young adults with little to no experience and train them with the foundation of real world experience. And quite often our small business owners are working right alongside those employees every day. As entry-level employers, retailers and grocers, they're training the workforce, and they will be incredibly impacted by the decisions set forth in this bill. Some of those concerns that we have, the main concern right now is staffing. I have shared with this committee and several others for the past, I want to say 4 years now, especially even before COVID-19, small businesses are struggling to fulfill positions in every corner of the state. So there is concern about how retailers or grocers would fill management or pertinent positions, let alone general staffing positions for 12 weeks. What does that look like? If someone takes 12 weeks off, how do we fill that position? When again, we're facing a shortage. We can certainly understand holding a position. We just have concern about how to fill that temporary position. Additionally, small businesses in Vermont appreciate the ability to support their community, but we do need to remind this committee that we are a state of 620,000 and we can only provide so much support. So we continue to have discussions surrounding the increasing disparity in wages. We have seen increased wages over the past 3 years, which has been really great for everybody. We can certainly appreciate that, but we've also seen significant increases in products. Small businesses are already stretching their budgets to ensure that they can bring in employees at competitive wages. In addition, they work with individual employees sometimes to ensure that they have access to the benefits that they may need. While we were on break, I overheard a conversation about one member that worked or had family who owned a small business and provided support to each of their employees based on what it is that they needed at the time. Small businesses do that already. And unfortunately, that doesn't mean that a mandated benefit of paid leave is something that small businesses can handle. We need to take that into consideration as we move forward in this, I'm sure, very long discussion that we will have. With that being said, VRGA does support a voluntary program where employers can opt in and offer the benefits when and if they are able to. And think about the small businesses or the small business startups that are just coming online and may not have the resources to provide everybody the $15 or $17 wage and vacation and paid leave and bonuses, et cetera. So we really need to take into consideration those small Main Street businesses. And I'm happy to bring one or two in to talk with you about what they have done over the past 5 years to provide benefits and value add while also supporting their employees where they can. Again, we prefer the voluntary paid leave option. And we support contracting with a third-party administrator. You've heard from other business organizations. VRGA personally believes that contracting with a third-party administrator would eliminate some of the administrative burden on state employees who are already strained. It eliminates some of the strain on taxpayers as well to the fund in order to fund additional positions. And it allows the professionals to manage the fund. I'm certainly not going to fix your car. I'm going to leave that up to a professional, right? So let's have the professionals manage an insurance program. And also allow the legislature to maintain some oversight to ensure that we are holding their feet to the fire and we are making sure that they're offering a competitive program. And again, I think, I will just finish out, I have two more points. I would finish out with, requesting that we do hear from Joint Fiscal, and I know that you asked one business organization to hear from other insurance providers. I do know that there is an insurance association. Maybe it would be helpful in bringing a couple of people in to talk about the impact or what the costs would look like for an outside organization. 2 points I do want to make about the specific bill is we would request stricter requirements on self-employed individuals. I can certainly understand their need for paid leave as well. We are seeing more and more people become self-employed, which is really great for them, and it's an exciting new landscape, but we want to make sure that there are specific parameters to ensure that their participation in the fund is commensurate with the risk that they're providing. And then finally, we don't necessarily understand or support the provision that would allow individuals making less than $25,000 to petition for a refund. It's an insurance program. I've never heard of an insurance program that has allowed you to petition for your payment back. So we would request that the committee seriously consider removing that provision. I'm happy to take questions. I want to keep it short.
Representative Assistant from the boroughs.
Thank you. Aaron, thank you for this testimony. You said something, I'm looking for clarity on it. You were talking about the difficulty of filling positions, staffing.
Yeah.
And then you said support holding a job open, protecting the position. And I'm not seeing the difference between protecting a position of unpaid leave and protecting the position with paid leave, because the staffing is still a determination to be made by the employer whether you need to bring somebody in. So I'm not seeing how this adds a burden there. I
Understood it, and then it went out of my head. I apologize.
I do that all the time.
Yes. I appreciate that. I'm not alone. I can understand where you're coming from. It's not coming back to me.
Okay.
I'm happy to, let me think about it and I'll come back to you. Yes. Yeah.
All set.
Yes.
Representative Rose.
Thank you. You have 2,000, you represent 2,000 outlets.
2,000 stores.
2,000 stores. So what is your membership?
750 members.
Okay.
So we represent general stores, the clothing store on Main Street, all the way up to the big three grocery stores, big box stores.
And do you survey your full membership?
I do. I have not surveyed them yet on this bill.
That was going to be my next question. Okay, thank you.
Perhaps rephrasing what the Vice Chair asked you.
Yes.
Many of your members are under 10 or 15. Many of them are over. So how, talking about the folks who are responsible for providing unpaid leave, what do they do when someone comes in? And then to think about, I wanna open up the conversation to beyond a 12-week block, because a 12-week block is likely for bonding, but not necessarily for my mom's sick. So, just, I think is that close to what you were asking? Not the 12-week part, but just the idea that there are plenty of businesses who are facing the possibility of having employees who need to take leave. And they have to provide it with the job protection.
Right, it's covered leave versus uncovered, whether it's paid or not. Like, what do you do? What are you doing now, essentially? I don't have that answer, but I'm certainly happy to take that back to the membership. I would anticipate that the concern would be surrounding, for lack of a better term, the uptake of the program, right? So everyone's short-staffed and everyone has something going on. How do you maintain some semblance of operation, whether it's paid or unpaid? I don't think it has anything to do with passage of this program. I think it's just a question to put out there, like how we're already short-staffed. How do we look forward?
If there's an uptake in leave,
Yes,
potentially placing a greater strain on the employer to need to fill a position.
yes,
Wouldn't it? If I'm
yes,
paraphrasing.
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So, actually, Representative Parsons had a question. I'll come back.
Okay, thank you, Chair. That just stole my thunder. That was gonna be my point. I was gonna point out that part of that problem, which is what JFO told us, was that it's really hard to model this because nobody else does the 100%. And when you put out 100% benefit, trying to figure how many people are gonna use that is really hard, because why wouldn't you?
Right.
And I think I said deterrent or something last time of not having it. I don't mean that to be a negative thing, that you shouldn't be using your
Right.
leave when you need it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is how an insurance program works, is that, you don't, as you said, I mean, we're creating an insurance program, but we're lacking some of the fundamentals of an insurance program, which is not having to pay 100% benefit, things like that.
Right.
So.
Agreed.
That's all I was gonna say.
I would, thank you for that. And that's one more point I would suggest hearing from the insurance companies, what does this look like in practice? What does this look like in reality? And how, if you're going to move forward, can you ensure that it's the best plan that supports employees, but also, is operational, functioning properly.
The folks that work for your clients, entry level, at one point, they were referred to as essential workers. Now we have a worker shortage, not just in the service industries, but across the board. I think we're all aware of that and very sensitive to that. Are you aware of any programs? And again, I'm appreciating the fact that you're dealing with general stores to large supermarkets, and there's a whole different, they're not going to run their business the same way that a supermarket is going to run their business. But what are these stores doing in the face of, we've always argued, not personally, but just we've argued over wouldn't you want to keep your employees? The training expenses alone must be overwhelming. And when you can't find employees, I guess the question is, what anecdotally at the very least, what are your companies doing to keep people from
Yeah.
moving on, because I mean, we've always viewed this as a both pro employee and employer policy. And we're just trying to get an understanding of what the modern world is like.
So, thank you for pointing out that not everyone has the same practice, right? I think, we can certainly appreciate that there are good actors and bad actors, or good employers and, employers that could improve, right? Opportunity for improvement. It really depends on the employer. I am excited that we, as an association, have actually, opened up a 401k retirement program for retailers only. So if you're a member of the association, you have access to a 401k program that will save the employer significant amounts of money in managing the 401k program. But it also provides access to those employees. We've seen a really great uptake in that plan. Many of our employers still call and ask questions about paying for health insurance. Several of them are paying a majority, if not all, of their health insurance stipend every month. You know, those that can provide bonuses, those that can provide extra paid leave or extra vacation can. It's really employer by employer. I have an employer, small business, country store. I want to say it's in Addison County, whose daughter needed braces and they paid for the daughter's braces. You know, it's employee by employee. It's an employer by employer.
Okay. Any further questions for Erin? And I'll be respectful of her time as well. I know you're bouncing around. Yes.
I just have one question. Do any of the businesses that you oversee, do any of them have like a cross-training program for employees? If someone is out, then everyone pitches in, or?
I think you will see that in a lot of the small businesses, or independent businesses. Nobody does one job, right? Like one day, maybe in the morning, you'll stock shelves. The afternoon, you might, I don't know, ring people out. You know, it really depends, but I see that in most small independently owned businesses. I will say also that at least one of the large grocers does provide a cross-training program and set like a growth plan for them within the company if that's something that they express interest in. You know, but again, I think you definitely see it in smaller employers. I can't tell you about large employers.
Further questions? All right, Tina, just thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you for your time.
And
Happy to come back anytime.
we're doing this full time for next week or so,
Good luck. I don't envy the conversation. Like, I don't envy you. You know, it's a heavy conversation, and I appreciate your thoughtful questions.
great, thank you. What's that?
Not till one.
Not till 1:01. Okay, no, I saw two folks come in, were they just listening? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so committee, we don't have another witness until 1, but I just wanted to open up the floor to conversation. We have, as I mentioned earlier, the person at 1:00 is going to be testifying with a national perspective on potential fraud questions that have come up with the program. And tomorrow we'll follow that up with a conversation with Cameron Wood who we've met from the Department of Labor, who will ask about especially, you know, what the percentages might be in the Department of Labor in the programs that they manage or oversee. So we have an invitation out to, I talked to Kendall Smith this morning, and she was going to try to put together a group of folks who are going to come in and inform us about what the the administration's proposal is, or what they're negotiating. And, you know, there'll obviously be some limitations on details because of the fact that they're in contract negotiations, but we should be hearing from them either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. I wanted to be able to take this time. We'll take a break before we get back to work, but I just wanted to let you know, so we're gonna open the floor up to more conversation like we had yesterday. This afternoon, after we hear from the witnesses, we'll have another hour before we go on the floor. What I wanna do then is kind of start walking through the bill. I'll lead. We'll go section by section through the bill. And the way that I like to work is just to check off sections or to mark sections if we have questions. Not to get bogged down in any of the questions that we might have as we're walking through it. Just to mark it and then reserve time. And then the next time we go through it, we'll focus more on those questions. We'll go through it, you know, a handful of times. And then we can apply that same thing then to markup, because some of the questions we have are going to be about markup. I know there's going to be questions about various sections. Some of it's going to be just copy editing. Some of it's going to be policy. And so we'll have the attorney here also to listen in. But let's take, let's go ahead and take 15 minutes. I need 15 minutes right now, and then we'll come back at 11. And we'll start work again. Is that okay?